So, Jake Paul versus Ben Akren. Anyone who's new to this, get you up to speed. If you haven't heard, a lot of the YouTubers are boxing now, and the Paul brothers are kind of leading this YouTuber boxing front. And Jake Paul recently won against former NBA player and former NBA All-Star Nate Robinson, who's not a boxer, but he claimed that he was boxing for a few years, and him and Jake were talking shit online. Eventually, Jake knocked him out. I actually made a breakdown video on that, which was actually my most viewed video, and what surprised me was that I picked Jake to win, but I did not expect him to actually flatline and knock out Nate Robinson. So props to Jake. He clearly has some legit boxing skill. Is he a pro level? I don't know, but he definitely has some skill. Now, as far as Ben Akren fighting him, Jake Paul's been calling out a ton of people. Conor McGregor, Michael Bisping, Ben Akren, Dylan Dennis. Me personally, I think Dylan Dennis is the fight because Dylan Dennis isn't a boxer, but he is a good enough fighter that Jake would actually get the respect, and Jake has a good chance of winning that. But on the flip side, apparently Ben Akren has accepted Jake Paul's offer. Jake Paul did send offers out to all their managers. Apparently Ben Akren accepted, but now Ben Akren's saying Jake Paul hasn't been responding since accepting, so I don't really know what's gonna happen. Personally, I think he's gonna fight Dylan Dennis next. But as far as who's gonna win that, checking out Jake's videos and seeing him perform, he clearly can perform under the lights. Definitely not as experienced, tough, and rugged as Ben Akren, because Ben Akren has been one of the highest ranked welterweights in the entire world. So just on the sake of like toughness, durability, obviously Ben Akren's a whole nother level. Like we're talking about UFC caliber, ONE FC caliber, like big UFC fighters, championship level world champs. Jake Paul is essentially just an amateur boxer. Now he does have some actual skill, and if you look at how Ben Akren strikes, one would think Jake Paul actually has a good chance. I think Jake Paul has a good chance of beating Ben Akren in a straight boxing match. It's just hard for me to pick against Ben Akren if this fight ever does happen, because even though he looks really wild in MMA striking, boxing striking where you could be more stationary, where the flow, the timing is so much different. Like Ben can be like wild and stuff in MMA because he's really just trying to be wild and get a hold of you, and then he does his wrestling game. If Ben knows there's no wrestling and he's training specifically for boxing and he's been striking long enough, even though it looks like really embarrassing striking, he is still a professional MMA fighter. And for him to pick up the boxing, the flow, and to connect hard on Jake, I would imagine he'd do really good. And then when it comes to clinching, I mean, it's not even a competition. Like Ben Akren might be one of the best clinchers ever. So thinking about Ben Akren versus Jake, what Jake has going for him is obviously really boxing based. I know he's got his wrestling background, but as far as boxing, he's been training like really real hardcore boxing. Clearly has power. Say what you want about how Nate Robinson's not a boxer. To flatline someone like that in a fight is actually really hard to do unless you're actually a trained fighter. So Jake is a legitimate boxer. Jake clearly has good movement, good skill, decent cardio. I mean, we haven't seen it gone long yet. Ben Akren could probably have way longer cardio, but Jake does look pretty good so far. Now, as far as who I would put my money on, if we're talking about even odds, I'm just gonna have to go with Ben Akren for the sake of the fact that he's been such a long time fighter. Now, I do know boxing is so much different than MMA. Me and myself, I have good MMA striking, but I recently have just been going to this one local boxing gym here, and just the timing in like a straight boxing match against a seasoned boxer, it's different. The way you flow, the way you pop up, it's like way more like punching volume, and you could like slip out of punches and feint in ways that you can't do in MMA because you just get leg kicked or take down. It is way different than what Ben Akren's used to. Ben Akren has extremely weak striking for MMA. I mean, looking at some of his videos are pretty embarrassing on the striking aspect. Kind of comical, but he's just such a long time fighter. I see him just getting outpointed maybe, but it's hard to pick against Ben Akren. Jake, I do think is a good boxer. I don't think this fight happens, so really this breakdown video doesn't really matter. The fight's not gonna happen. I really think Jake Paul versus Dylan Dennis is the fight, or Jake Paul ends up fighting KSI, and I think Jake beats KSI. I'll do a breakdown video on that. So pretty much, I think it's a toss-up. I'm gonna lean towards Ben Akren, but TBH, this one I don't really know. For future videos though, I'm gonna be breaking down Logan Paul versus Mayweather, put it this way. Mayweather's gonna do whatever he wants to Logan, but I'll kind of go in detail about it, break down some footage. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe. I got real estate content, MMA content, boxing, lifestyle, just whatever you want. We're here in Orlando, Florida. Beautiful downtown Orlando, Florida, so have a good day.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.